Good afternoon. I'm going to address two incidents that occurred within the last 24 hours. The first is a shooting at Bar Zia downtown, which occurred just down the block from here on 4th Street, that injured two women and one man and killed another man. I will provide information as well about a damage to property incident that occurred this morning at Temple Israel, which we believe is a bias crime. Regard to the first incident, last night at approximately 11:40 p.m., Minneapolis police officers responded to a report of a shooting inside of Bar Zia on 4th Street South. When they arrived, the police officers encountered a large, unruly crowd that was continuing to engage in physical altercations. Additional police officers responded to assist with the crowd from the 2nd, 3rd, and 5th precincts, as well as deputies from the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office. Inside, police officers found a 21-year-old man suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. Police officers provided immediate medical aid, including CPR. However, the man was pronounced deceased at the scene. Officers found a second man with an apparent non-life-threatening gunshot wound and two women, both with apparent non-life-threatening gunshot wounds. All three of them were transported by EMS to Hennepin Healthcare. Preliminary information indicates that an altercation inside the bar escalated to gunfire. Minneapolis police forensic scientists responded to the scene to process it. Our investigators are working hard to determine the circumstances around the shooting. One man from the unruly crowd was arrested and booked into jail for obstruction. The arrested man was part of an unruly group that was preventing emergency responders from getting inside the scene to render aid. No arrests have been made relative to the shooting itself. This is, unfortunately, another act of senseless violence that's unacceptable. In no way should any argument inside of a crowded bar end in gunfire and a loss of life. The bar did have security in place that we are told did check people for weapons. So how a firearm was able to get inside will be a part of our investigation. Our investigators are working diligently to identify everyone involved and hold those responsible accountable. We do believe the parties involved were known to each other. We have strong leads. We are working to determine everyone's identities and the connections of those people involved. However, we are asking anyone who knows the identity of the persons involved, particularly the one who pulled the trigger, to please contact police. Relative to this particular bar, 2 years ago, the MPD saw an increase in calls for service related to this bar and worked with the bar to change security measures. Those measures, it appeared, had resolved those issues at the time. However, in the last few weeks, there has been an increase in calls for service related to this bar, and we are working with bar management to evaluate security and address the circumstances related to last night's shooting. I will now provide some background on a damage to property incident that occurred this morning at Temple Israel. Joining me today from Temple Israel is Rabbi Marsha Zimmerman, as well as the acting United States Attorney, Joe Thompson, and the Assistant Special Agent in charge of the FBI for the District of Minnesota, Leah Greeves. Just after 9 a.m. today, Minneapolis police officers responded to Temple Israel at 2323 Fremont Avenue South for a report of vandalism that was clearly a hate crime. Minneapolis police officers found threatening graffiti that was spray painted on the south side of the building on West 24th Street. The graffiti included language that referenced the name of the Hamas terrorist attack that occurred 2 years ago, as well as an inverted triangle, which is a common symbol since this attack that is used to normalize violence against Jews and people from Israel. Investigators have determined that the vandalism occurred at approximately 2:30 a.m. this morning. No arrests have been made at this time. The MPD's Behavioral Threat Assessment Team responded immediately and is leading the investigation. I've also requested, and we have the assistance of the FBI and the United States Attorney's Office. Because yesterday marked 2 years since the October 7th terrorist attack in Israel, the MPD had already added directed patrols at all houses of worship citywide this week. Addresses for all places of worship were distributed to police officers, and officers had already been instructed to provide additional patrols as part of their regular duties. And let me be clear, that includes all places of faith, Christian, Jewish, as well as Muslim. However, following this incident, we have increased MPD resources dedicated to directed patrols around our houses of worship across Minneapolis, and we will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. Hate crimes and acts targeting sacred spaces strike at the very heart of who we are as a community. These acts are meant to instill fear and division, and we will not tolerate them. The MPD is investigating this incident as a bias-motivated crime. We will work tirelessly alongside our federal law enforcement partners to hold those responsible accountable. An attack on any of our houses of worship is an attack on all of us who believe in peace and community, regardless of anyone's religion. We stand with Rabbi Zimmerman, with the congregation of Temple Israel, our Jewish community, and all our houses of worship, regardless of religion, in denouncing this hate. And we'll do everything we can to hold those responsible accountable and to help our community gather and be able to worship free from fear. Rabbi Zimmerman.
Seeing hateful words and symbols on our sacred space is deeply upsetting and painful, especially as we mark the second anniversary of October 7th terrorist attack in Israel. And our community is in the middle of celebrating and commemorating Sukkot, our harvest festival. And so those combinations of things, the words written as we have just heard, hateful words that are not about differing opinions, but are an attack on a community. These are the things that are trying to intimidate us as a Jewish community and all religious people. So for me, the idea of these words must remind us to continue to commemorate our festivals, to remember as a community we are gathered together, and that we will continue to be a voice in the city of Minneapolis and in the state of Minnesota to clearly support a desire for freedom of religion against any kind of hate. And so for us, this is a true moment to live by the words that are over our historic doors from the book of Isaiah, and that is that this house shall be a house of prayer for all people. I was on my way in the early morning to an interfaith breakfast with the downtown congregations, Christian, Jewish, and Muslim. We were, as we always do, once a month, have a breakfast. That is when I got the call, and then turned, of course, back to Temple Israel. But we have been at the heart of this city in bringing peace and hope and the sense that we can work together beyond our differences. So this is what we need to continue to work towards. In addition, as a Jewish community specifically, we will continue to feel a pride of being Jewish, of teaching the generations of our community what our text and our history and our holidays mean, and that we will continue to work within our Jewish community and within the congregation itself to promote peace and hope and a belief that this world can be better through the lens of our Jewish text and heritage. Thank you.
Good afternoon. What happened this morning at Temple Israel is much more than just vandalism. It's a hate crime. It was hate made visible, an attempt to make people feel unsafe in their place of worship. And it's also a federal crime. The U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI are working closely with our federal, state, and local law enforcement partners to find whoever is responsible for this crime and hold them fully accountable. Anti-Semitism is not welcome in Minnesota. Hate is not welcome in Minnesota. Any attack on a house of worship is an attack on all of us. When someone tries to intimidate a community through fear, we will answer and do whatever we can to hold them responsible. To the members of Temple Israel, Rabbi Zimmerman, and the broader Jewish community, you are not alone. All of us here in Minnesota stand with you. We will not let hate define this state or this moment.
We'll take any questions that you have, and I can also answer questions related to the shooting if there's any.
Chief, let's start with the shooting. Do we know anything about the weapon? We understand that not a bump stock, but it could have had another contraption to it to make it an automatic, a Sears, a switch. Yeah, did it have a switch on it?
I don't have any specifics related to the ballistics, or we don't have the weapon recovered at this time, so we would not know for sure if it was altered in that way.
And do we know if it was gang-related, or is there any concern about retaliation and retribution?
So we believe the parties are known to each other, and we have very strong leads. We're absolutely not ruling out the possibility that it is gang-related.
For you and for your federal partners and then for Rabbi Zimmerman, well, talk about the significance of that language that was found on the synagogue, and what threats do we know of violence against Jews? I mean, we talk about that this is an attack against the house of worship, but there was nothing religious about those terms. It had everything to do with an attack against a Jewish state, a nationality, and a Jewish community. So what threats do we know of? Is there a risk right now? Do you know of any risk of violence against the Jewish community here in Minneapolis or Minnesota? Talk about that.
So I'll start off, and I'll pass it to Rabbi, because I know, I'm certain this is deeply affecting her and her community. The words on the spray painted, the graffiti, included the name of the terrorist attack that occurred in Israel, as well as several depictions of an inverted triangle, which has been known since the October 7th attack to be used as marking places or people where Jews could be killed. And there's even some places now that don't allow that as a form of speech to be displayed. So it's certainly something that is well known in the Jewish community, and the individual who did this knew the potential terror he could inflict largely on the community. And this, clearly people may not understand the name of this house of worship is Temple Israel. It has absolutely nothing to do with the state of Israel. These are people who live in our community that happen to be Jewish and that are practicing their faith and going there. They have absolutely no responsibility and absolutely nothing to do with what is going on in the war in the Middle East.
Rabbi, as well for you, you have the chief here supporting you, you have your federal partners supporting you. To my knowledge, there's been one senator that's made a comment. The governor has had a 10-word statement on Twitter. Have you heard from your Congresswoman Ilhan Omar? Have you heard from Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan? What is your response that there hasn't been much response from many leaders, whether federal or state?
I have gotten a lot of response. I have gotten response from the governor, called me personally, directly on my cell phone, Mayor Fry. The chief came to Temple. I've heard from the lieutenant governor. I have heard from all of my colleagues in the downtown congregations who knew about this earlier than anybody because I had to tell them I wasn't going to the breakfast. I have heard from so many people over and over and over again. Throughout the country, I have heard from people. So I have had incredible support, and that I want to say very clearly from the minute it got.
Have you heard from Congresswoman Omar?
No. I have not at this time, but, so I think for me, the reality is that an attempt to blame American Jews for what you are thinking is the case in Israel and Gaza is providing fear and hate to the community. And we are connected to Israel. Many of us have family in Israel. We have first cousins, second cousins in Israel. We have friends who live in Israel. We are very connected to Israel. That is not at all something that we want to disconnect from ever. So we are a Zionist organization, and that needs to be said very clearly.
I just want to know if there are cameras anywhere, Rabbi, and if that has been helpful to the investigation, either you and or the chief.
There are cameras all around Temple, and that's how we knew it was at 2:30 a.m., and we have handed over all of the material on the cameras to the investigation. And because it's an active investigation, there's not more that I can say.
And Chief, to that too, that is obviously a helpful piece of evidence to have in searching for this person.
Yes, it's a starting point. The most I'd say about it, we know from the video that it's at least 2 individuals involved, and both of them left on bicycles from the area.
Any sense of whether this may be connected to the vandalism that happened there last December?
We cannot rule out that this was connected to the vandalism that occurred in December of last year. However, in that case, we know that it is one person who's responsible for that.
Can I ask Mr. Thompson about, and maybe both of you, but how are you, and this idea of targeting and chatter, I mean, we think on TV things, are you paying attention? Are you hearing rumblings? What's the communication like when you're monitoring, or hopefully kind of getting a sense about what the vibe is in the community?
Yeah, I mean, certainly that's part, and really FBI does this, but we're constantly monitoring, especially around key dates. October 7th, of course, being a date that you might well expect to see activity like this. Not that it's understandable, and that's not a good explanation, so I hate to even say that. But obviously we're cognizant of times, and we monitor those things, and FBI is constantly monitoring things to see if there's chatter to suggest there might be an uptick in hate crimes or violence, and to see if we can prevent it. And we pass that along to all state, federal, and local law enforcement. And then, Leah, do you have more on that?
Defer to you.
So we are in contact with the FBI as well as the state BCA, our state fusion center here. And obviously we're aware, particularly around when the holidays occur, Jewish holidays occurring, as well as, I don't want to say an anniversary, because an anniversary sounds like something positive, but the second year since when the terrorist attack. So I think there's obviously times during the year that we have to be aware of that there is a heightened possibility of incidents occurring in the community.
Chief, are you looking at the incidents at Al-Hikmah Islamic Center in the same way as hate crimes, the break-in yesterday, and then that fire last week on Monday?
So we have a person in custody. It does not appear to be a hate crime. And we will be submitting charges for that case yesterday. The fire prior to that has not been ruled an arson at this time. So we're not sure if a crime actually occurred. There's some complex issues that occur in the community around the mosque. They deal with folks that, in some cases are unhoused or suffering from either mental health or substance abuse issues. But that is obviously something that we're very much aware of, because we have had, unfortunately, many incidents occur at houses of worship, at mosques around the city, including arson in my time here. So I'll be meeting with the imam from the mosque tonight, and we're going to continue to monitor that as well. But at this time, we don't have information to suggest that is bias motivated.
Do you think it was the same person, the folks at the mosque, the Imam Giovanni Hussein said yesterday that it appeared that the person who was underneath the stairs where the fire started and who broke in yesterday morning was be the same woman?
We can't confirm that yet. Can't rule out the possibility that it may have been someone else. We're still open that we may need to identify someone else, but at the same time, it has not yet been ruled a crime. It's not yet been ruled an arson fire.
And what leads you to believe that the break-in yesterday was not a hate crime? Was there evidence or video that you've seen?
That'll come out when we submit the charges.
And you're expecting that here this week?
We will be submitting charges soon, yeah. Did you have a question? I'm sorry.
I was going to ask about this.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Chief, do you have a message for there's a holiday this week, there's another holiday next week, message to the Jewish community about whether they should feel safe going to their Jewish houses of worship, to their Jewish preschools, Jewish community center?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned earlier, we have had increased patrols at all of our houses of worship around the city, and obviously with both of these issues, both at the masjid, the mosque we were just referencing, as well as at Temple Israel, we are increasing patrols at those two specific houses of worship. So Temple Israel, as well as the mosque where this fire recently occurred and we had the arrest, both because it's not just to try and prevent something else from happening, it's to try and ensure that the congregations in both of these houses of worship can feel safe coming and going. And then we will be continuing what we had done before with houses of worship for the foreseeable future. But I think in both cases, they will see a very visible police presence for the foreseeable future.
And Rabbi, you said that you've heard a lot of people personally. I'm asking if you want to hear more from people publicly about the danger of this rhetoric and what it means to the Jewish community.
I think that I feel like our congregation is very supported, and as far as public statements are always welcome because they help prevent more of these kinds of things. It is in my mind, the antidote to hate crime is for people to stand together, and it is really important for people to see that there are those in the community who come to the aid when there's anti-Semitism, hate crime of any sort. And I want to say that my inbox, both text and emails, are flooded, so I'm not even sure I've seen everything, but I welcome public statements as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.